I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Current's Week in Review. Tonight, we begin with very good news, the latest development in a story that has captivated the hearts and minds of people around the world. Malala Yousufzai, the teenage champion for the education of girls in Pakistan and assassination target of Taliban terrorists, has been released from the hospital. She was shot in the head almost 3 months ago. Facing death, she was airlifted to a hospital in Britain, a facility better equipped to care for her wounds. The medical director at the hospital in Birmingham says Malala is a strong young woman who has worked hard to make excellent progress in her recovery. Now, at the time of the assassination attempt, Malala was 14 years old. The Muslim fanatics who tried to kill her believe women have no rights and should not be educated. Malala fought them online with a blog called Diary of a Pakistani Schoolgirl and by speaking out publicly.
My people need me, and I shall raise my voice because if I didn't raise my voice now, so when will I raise my voice?
Some people might say you're 14. You don't have any rights. You just have to listen to mom and dad.
No, I have rights. I have the right of education. I have the right to play. I have the right to sing. I have the right to talk. I have the right to go to market. I have the right to speak up.
Well, what if you give that advice to a girl who may not be as courageous as you, and she says, Malala, I'm afraid. I just want to stay in my room.
So I'll tell her that don't stay in your room, because God will ask you on the day of judgment that where were you when your people were asking you, when your school fellows were asking you, and when your school was asking you that I am being blown up. When your people need you, you should come up, you should come, and you should stand up for their rights.
Such a strong young girl. In about a month, Malala will return to the hospital to undergo reconstructive surgery on her skull, and she'll be there for regular checkups before then. And in the meantime, her dad, a school principal, has been assigned to Pakistan's consulate in England as education attaché, meaning the family will be able to stay in the country for up to 5 years. The Taliban in Pakistan are threatening to try to kill her if she returns. In Person of the Year surveys for 2012, both Time magazine and CNN named Malala runner-up. Youngsters closer to home have been in our news this week. The school children of Newtown, Connecticut. The students of Sandy Hook Elementary School returned to class yesterday for the first time since the massacre destroyed 26 of their classmates and teachers. Now we're learning about the experiences of 7-year-old Serena Aracum. That's her on the left with her mom. Serena says the day was good. She found her friends and her desk, but not her teacher, Vicky Soto. Mom says her daughter constantly asks about the teacher and where she is. Vicky Soto was the 27-year-old teacher who used herself as a human shield to protect her students from the evil that invaded their classroom on that day in December. Well, in the aftermath of the Newtown killings, the U.S. bishops are calling for an examination of both national policies and our culture, saying now is the time to renew the culture of life. The bishops are urging close looks at mental health policies, violence in the entertainment industry, and gun laws, and they're especially concerned that all people of goodwill now help bring about a culture of peace and life. Now, regarding that most crucial issue, life. Yesterday, I spoke with the leader of the Susan B. Anthony List, a 300,000-member pro-life organization, and Marjorie Dannenfelser pointed to some very positive developments in the fight to restore our culture.
Where the brightest spots are, however, are where the bodies that are closest to the will of the people, the state legislatures, we are doing incredibly well, and we continue to do well. And the will of the people on the life issue grows every year in our direction, especially among women, especially among young people. So there's every reason to hope that on the state legislative arena, we will do very well certainly on abortion funding, but even beyond that, on late-term abortion bans, on sex selection bans, parental notification, and really saving lives.
And now comes a report detailing the news Marjorie told us. More than 40 new laws were passed in 2012 by the states restricting abortions. That's the second highest one-year total in our history. An abortion group produced the report, and they are not happy with the findings. Meantime, the biggest pro-life event of the year is planned for Washington in just 3 weeks, the 40th annual March for Life. Jean Monahan is one of the organizers.
We've seen already that we're going to have record-breaking crowds, and I think that's probably for a variety of reasons. One, of course, being the election and the fact that we took a huge pro-life loss during the election, and we're seeing people very passionate about this issue, and so we've seen markers in terms of the numbers. Hotels have filled up a month earlier than normal. I think also just given the fact that this is the 40-year anniversary and the somber reality that we've lost at least 55 million individual human beings to abortion, I think people want to really make their voice heard. They want to show that pro-life laws are the best laws and that they protect people. The large majority of participants in the March for Life are young people. They're under the age of 25, and they're the best ambassadors of the pro-life movement. Their energy is contagious. And so I think for those reasons, we have a lot of hope that this will be made right, and that justice will prevail, and that this human rights issue will be brought to a speedy end sometime soon. I think that that will only happen in the hands of our young people.
The Pope's ambassador to the U.S. will be in San Francisco the day after the march on January 26 to participate in the West Coast Walk for Life. This will be the 9th year Catholics have held the walk, and the co-founder says having the ambassador, Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, join them is the next best thing to having the Holy Father himself there. Well, when all the marches and walks are done, the national abortion debate remains, and it is about only one thing: the life of the unborn. And tonight, some astonishing pictures of an unborn girl extending her hand to her doctor.
It's hauntingly beautiful. Unborn Nevaeh Atkins reaches out of her mother's womb and holds the finger of the doctor performing her C-section delivery.
He showed it to me and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Few lives will be as well documented as little Nevaeh's. Her mother's a professional photographer. However, it was her dad, Randy, who snapped the pic.
Doctor called me over and said, hey, she's grabbing my finger. So I just ran over there and just grabbed the shot. And I was just in awe, looking at it. It was such an amazing picture.
How nervous were you that you were going to miss it?
Very nervous.
Alicia gave her doctor a canvas print of the photo.
The doctor knew it was an amazing photo right away. He knew the next day that's all he could talk about for weeks.
And after 1,000 likes on Facebook, she's even gotten a few offers to buy the picture.
A couple of them have said that they would love to have the photo for their organization for where they're against abortion. What is his name?
Obviously, Nevaeh is the newest member to join the growing family of 5, although there's friendly disagreement on future growth.
Will there be more?
No more.
I say one more.
No more.
I say one more.
But no matter how many other kids follow, this picture of Nevaeh, they will cherish forever.
Miracle of life.
And Alicia says she's going to hang a big print of the picture in her daughter's room, and I don't blame her. Up next, immigration persecutions and human rights as Currents Week in Review continues after the break. Welcome back to Currents Week in Review. Immigration news this week centers on a new drive by the U.S. bishops to achieve comprehensive reforms. On Sunday, the church's celebration of National Migration Week will begin in dioceses around the country. The bishops are launching a postcard campaign to coincide. The church leaders are looking for Congress to provide a path to citizenship, the preservation of family unity, and cures for the root causes of migration. And Vice President Joe Biden is confident that as the new Congress analyzes November's election results, comprehensive immigration reform could pass soon. He explained to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus.
What's finally happened is the American people. The American people have begun to understand not only the great contributions made, but the awesome potential, future potential of the Hispanic community. Have you ever seen a time when the Republicans have had a more rapid epiphany about immigration than they've had this last election?
The president won more than 70% of the Hispanic vote, and a record 31 Latinos now serve in the new Congress. The migration from Mexico to the U.S. is a major part of our immigration debate, but there was no arguing about the Mexicans who, by the thousands and mostly teenagers, arrived at the Vatican yesterday. The young men and women came to Paul VI Hall to remember the Pope's visit to their country last year. They came with their flags and their devotion, saying their goal was to show the Holy Father the affection they feel for him and to make him smile.
Benedicto, hermano, ya eres mexicano. Benedicto, hermano, ya eres mexicano.
One young man named Angel called the visit a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In Venezuela, the Archbishop of Caracas, Cardinal Jorge Savino, is calling for calm as news reports indicate Hugo Chavez is near death. A government spokesman paints a very bleak picture.
Tras la delicada cirugía del pasado.
After the delicate surgery on December 11, Comandante Chavez has faced complications as a consequence of a severe pulmonary infection. This infection has caused a respiratory insufficiency that requires Comandante Chavez to strictly follow medical treatment.
One newspaper says the treatment is only artificial life support and the plug could be pulled at any moment. Chavez is hospitalized in Cuba. Also in Cuba, a dramatic increase in religious persecution, up 400% in 2012, and that's not counting the hundreds arrested and imprisoned for the duration of Pope Benedict's visit last March. The group, Christian Solidarity Worldwide, documented the abuses and say Catholics suffered the most. In Russia, a crackdown on human rights groups is said to be underway as a new law there brings back memories of tactics from a time long ago.
Tanya Lokshina is heavily pregnant. Someone sent her text messages threatening the life of her unborn child.
Saying quite directly that they had plans for my baby.
Lokshina is the deputy director with Human Rights Watch in Russia. She says she received 12 messages over 3 days and they contained a frightening degree of detail about her personal life.
That could only be obtained by means of phone tapping or other forms of surveillance.
Rights workers in Russia say they often receive violent threats, but targeting a pregnant woman is a new low.
Human rights groups say the climate here has turned very chilly for them ever since a law was created that says all non-government organisations that get involved in political issues and receive foreign funding must officially register and publicly brand themselves as iностранный agent, a foreign agent.
85-year-old Ludmila Alexeyeva began fighting for human rights here when Russia was still part of the Soviet Union. She says the expression foreign agent has long been a powerful smear, referring to spies and enemies of Russia.
I'm not a foreign agent because I work only on behalf of human rights, Russian citizens and their freedom.
In many Soviet-era movies, foreign agents were the bad guys. In The Diamond Arm from 1968, a woman is horrified to find her husband has a gun and lots of cash because she assumes he's been recruited by the West. And this film, 50-50, portrayed foreign agents as suspicious-looking men lurking in parks among trees.
The purpose of this law, say Russian human rights groups, is to discredit them, to stop them criticising the government, to silence dissent. And they say it is just one in a series of repressive new laws implemented since Vladimir Putin became Russian president again 7 months ago.
This year has seen unprecedented dissent against President Putin, with tens of thousands of people regularly on the streets calling for him to go. Alexeyeva says that movement marks the birth of civil society in modern Russia, and Putin is trying to stop it.
Our authorities do believe that it helps them to keep their power longer.
The foreign agent legislation was written by the Putin-supporting United Russia Party. Alyona Arshinova voted for it in Parliament. She says its aim is greater transparency.
We have such words like an economical agent or trade agent or something. It's not about to discuss, you know. It's like a practice of international practice.
The law's supporters like to point out that it's based on the United States' own Foreign Agents Registration Act, dating from 1938. But the US version targets lobbying firms, not human rights groups. Many Russian NGOs have together decided to ignore the new law. They're now waiting to see if agents of the Russian government will come after them.
Agents of the Bank of Italy are blocking the use of credit cards at the Vatican. It's the latest government step against the church. The central bank has blocked all electronic payments, including credit cards, saying the Vatican isn't tough enough on money laundering. Vatican officials are said to be scrambling in what is now a cash-only economy. The biggest impact so far is on the tourists. Up next, finally, a Hurricane Sandy vote. Details after the break. More than 60 days after the storm and after several days of confusion and contradictions, the U.S. House of Representatives finally voted on providing relief from Hurricane Sandy.
On this vote, the yeas are 354, the nays are 67, two-thirds being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Today's measure only provides money to pay flood insurance claims. Now, as we reported earlier this week, the insurance agency is broke. Now they're getting more than $9 billion. Once the Senate and President approve, which is expected, about 115,000 pending flood claims will get paid. A vote on most of the aid, more than $50 billion, is set to occur on January 15th. FEMA runs the flood insurance program. Now they're running into trouble with the churches and other religious institutions in our area damaged by the storm. FEMA is telling them they can't apply for grants because FEMA considers them businesses. Congress is trying to fix that mess. Well, these days, too often, it seems government can't get out of its own way and get done the jobs we've hired them to perform. In contrast, and especially highlighted by the storm, the people of the Catholic Church. Please watch now the effort started by just one lady to get help from Buffalo to Brooklyn.
My name is Father Jim Cunningham. I'm the administrator of Holy Name of Jesus Parish here in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Before being here, I had been the pastor for 9 years in St. Mary Star of the Sea and St. Gertrude in Far Rockaway. Luckily for us here in Park Slope, we had no damage or no problems. So after the storm, we kind of became a headquarters to help people who wanted to be involved and assist those who were in need. In Far Rockaway, the community that I had been the pastor, people didn't have the opportunity to move. They didn't have any place to go. They had no electricity, they had no heat, they had no food. And many of the people in that community are already suffering because of financial difficulties. Many of my parishioners were undocumented. Because of that, the church became the place where they could go to get the assistance and the help that they needed. Many people were reaching out, trying to figure out what they could do to be involved. And on a Saturday morning, my phone rang, and Debbie Lazinski called from Buffalo and said, you know, we'd like to help out, we'd like to do something.
Back a few days after Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, I was having dinner with my husband back home in Clarence Center, a suburb of Buffalo. We were talking about the images that we saw, an image from Breezy Point or an image from Jersey, and what was happening out here. And we sat and I said, can you really even comprehend if that water came into Clarence Center? I mean, if we had that kind of devastation here, it just seems like I couldn't even fathom that. So then from there, he actually suggested a holiday drive, a gift drive. It was my husband, and I said, that's a great idea. So I started calling parishes. It was 5 after 8 in the morning on a Saturday, and I happened upon Father Jim Cunningham. And I shared my idea with him, and he immediately said they would be very receptive to the idea, and he wanted me to contact Joanne Murray at St. Mary Star of the Sea. And I did, and from there, it just exploded into this wonderful project.
Little did I know at that time what that would mean, but it has been, as you can see behind me, the tremendous generosity of people in northern New York State who have reached out to assist so many families that are really suffering.
We packed it all up, wrapped it all up, asked for help from friends and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and anybody we can get help from, and we filled that truck, and here we are in New York City.
We prayed for many gifts. We were worried. I was worried, I should say. They didn't worry. They knew that God would provide, but I was worried. And boy, I mean, we delivered 2,300 gifts.
This just helps them, I think, in the midst of this joyful season to be able to celebrate, even though many people are striving to rebuild. Their Christmas decorations are gone. Their Christmas trees and ornaments are gone. People's valuables and photo albums, when they're washed away or when they're destroyed by fire, they're not replaceable, but sometimes a gift from a stranger or someone else can ease the pain of that loss.
This isn't a matter of just giving gifts and walking away. This is hope for families that have had everything taken from them, and it's helping them realize that there are other people out there that care, that things are going to be okay, and they can have a Christmas that maybe they were really stressing about that they couldn't give to their children or their families.
It's been an incredible adventure.
A whirlwind adventure.
Yeah, it's been it's been a lot of fun, but it's also been a very strong spiritual journey for all of us.
Yeah.
More than anything, we just really wanted everyone to know that we feel what you're going through. We don't understand. We wish you a very Merry Christmas, and it will get better, and you'll have a happier New Year.
All of these things make a difference. Huge gifts, small gifts, all kinds of gifts, people together doing something makes a difference, and it changes people's lives. And to see that God's present because of the love that you experience from strangers.
And finally tonight, we review with Bishop DiMarzio the passing of an extremely talented man who contributed so much to the Diocese of Brooklyn. Our news director, Ed Wilkinson, takes us into the deep with the Bishop of Brooklyn.
Happy New Year, Bishop.
Yes, same to you.
Good to see you again. Been a busy week here in the diocese already. We had the tragic death of Joseph Smith, and then a beautiful funeral mass for him.
Yes.
But he was a terrific, but a quiet guy, wasn't he?
Very quiet. I said at the end of the funeral mass that he was a man of few words, and it's true. You hardly ever said too much, but he spoke through music. That was his way of communicating, and it was just a beautiful man. He was the music director for the diocese and for the cathedral, and gave so much of himself to making sure that we had good liturgy and beautiful music. So it was a sad loss. I mean, he died in the cathedral. He had been practicing, and probably didn't feel well, and died alone. Really, nobody. Monsignor Stromkowski found him about an hour later, it seems. So it's kind of a shocking death, and it was a very beautiful funeral, full choir. It was a real tribute to him.
Sure. Some of the music that was used yesterday was actually composed by
Right.
himself. And,
That's right.
And we should mention that his wife Jessica is also a big part of
That's
the
right. She's
music ministry in the diocese.
She's one of the leaders of song that we use all the time.
Sure. Another thing that's going to be happening at the cathedral this week is tomorrow on Saturday there's going to be a celebration of a Latin liturgy. That's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yes, it's the Latin liturgy of the Tridentine Missal. A bishop from Kakistan is coming, auxiliary bishop of the diocese there. He seems to be involved in the international movement of establishing the Latin liturgy. Actually, he was here once before. Well, they had it once before. It's the first time he is here. And they asked to use the cathedral, and that's fine. We'll do that. Monsignor Stromkowski, I think, will commentate tomorrow.
Yes.
It'll be televised live, and should be very beautiful. Brings back the memories of the past. It was the liturgy that we grew up on as young people, and it had a certain beauty. But our own liturgy now has taken its place, has its own purposes and understanding. So I think there's room for everyone in the church and the way they see liturgy.
Is this going to be a solemn high mass, like with a deacon and a subdeacon?
Yes, this is a pontifical solemn high mass, which is the full business.
Yeah, and I believe they're bringing in their own choirs, and it's, so
yeah.
it should be quite something to see. So it's a great opportunity for viewers to see what they were once used to. Actually, we have Latin Mass in the
We
diocese.
do. We have it in two locations. We have it in Lady of Peace in Brooklyn and the Cemetery Chapel in St. John's Cemetery in Queens. And that's every Sunday. Both of those masses are fairly well attended for the people that want to go to them, and they are available in both counties.
What do you think the attraction is of the Latin Mass?
It's hard to say. A little bit nostalgia. There's a quietness. There's a prayerfulness. It's a little different from the old liturgy. But again, it's almost a matter of taste. It's not something that has to be, but it's possible. And for people who feel more comfortable in that way, well, that's fine.
Yeah. These changes went into effect 50 years ago. And, you know, right after the Second Vatican Council, which was celebrating the 50th anniversary. Do you ever see more of a return to a Latin liturgy, to a more of a universal language, or do you think we're really set in our own way now?
Well, I think the change to the vernacular is set. I don't think we're going back to Latin liturgy. I think there will always be room for it in the church, but it's not a complete return. I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, there are some rites in the Catholic Church, Eastern rites, whose liturgy is not as developed as, say, the Latin rite. And,
Right.
you know, there are some that are very much more traditional than our own.
Well, that's true. I mean, they have not moved. They're the same over the centuries. And again, it's a matter of liking it. Obviously valid liturgies, but they're usually a little longer than the Latin liturgy. Again, the diversity in the church doesn't mean there's disunity, but there's a wideness in the unity that we have.
Sure. Well, certainly we'll be interested, and we encourage people to tune in tomorrow. So thanks for being with us today.
Well, they'll be with you.
And the Latin liturgy Bishop DiMarzio mentioned will be celebrated tomorrow and covered live right here on NET. I'll anchor our coverage from St. James Cathedral. The Mass is set to begin at 2 p.m. We'll take the air shortly before then to get you ready. Please join us. Thank you for being with us tonight, though, and we leave you with more of the talent of Joseph B. Smith. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.